the General Secretary of the TUC, Francis O'Grady, someone I'm sure who has more than a couple of views on the way in which P&O staff have been treated. Francis, lovely to see you. Well, let's just start with that. Do you think that the actions of P&O Ferries are illegal?
We do, and we also think it's one of the most shameful incidents in British industrial relations. 800 loyal, skilled workers marched off the ferries with no notice, no consultation with their union, and sacked by a company that has treated them like dirt. We need the government to answer some hard questions here. Who knew what when, from the Prime Minister down? But critically, we need action. We want those 800 workers reinstated to their jobs and given the dignity of livelihoods that they deserve.
If, however, the actions of P&O Ferries are, as you say, were, as you say, illegal, doesn't that mean that there are avenues which can be pursued? We had the Small Business Minister, Paul Scully, on the programme this morning stating that they needed to do their due diligence, they needed to find out, they needed to speak to P&O Ferries, but if that they hadn't acted properly, there would be the potential for unlimited fines.
I'm very disappointed that Conservative MPs abstained on a Labour motion last night calling for emergency legislation, because the truth is, finding out what happened after the event means nothing unless those workers get their jobs back. Now, the government has got plenty of levers to pull. P&O has been handed free ports worth millions of pounds in Britain. It sits on the Transport Department's own advisory group, a very powerful group. They're awarded licences, tax allowances, tax handouts from the tonnage tax. The government could suspend their licences and tell them unless they reinstate those workers, then they are not welcome in Britain. There is plenty that the government could and should be doing now to make sure those workers get their jobs back.
Francis, is there also the possibility, perhaps, of industrial action? You'll excuse me that I'm not as clued up as P&O Ferries as you obviously are. Does that 800 represent the totality of their UK workforce, or are there others, unionised others, that might well come out on strike in support of their former colleagues?
There is huge solidarity from the whole trade union movement on this, and we will be looking at our options, because this has to be a turning point. We've seen, through the pandemic, so many workers were regarded as heroes. Since the pandemic, we've seen the rise of fire and rehire, where workers are sacked and then re-employed on worse terms and conditions. We've got 0 hours, 1 million workers on 0 hours contracts in this country, bogus self-employment, umbrella companies, agencies behaving badly. We need the employment bill. The Prime Minister promised that Britain would be the best place in the world to work. Well, try telling that to P&O workers. We need an employment bill that strengthens workers' rights, but also respects union rights. This was a company that did not consult with unions as they are required to do by law. The government has got to come down on them like a ton of bricks and make it clear that no employer can get away with treating workers in this way.
Well, certainly we should hear more from the government after that deadline passes later today. But just to pick up on one thing that you just said, when you say that the TUC is looking at its options, is it possible that we could see some sympathetic strike action take place, that others will come out in solidarity with their colleagues?
Well, as you know, Neil, we have some of the most draconian anti-trade union laws in this country. And of course, that's one of the reasons why bad employers like P&O think they can get away with this, in that we are banned from taking solidarity action. But I know, I was marching through the streets of London yesterday with P&O workers, the huge public support that there is for this struggle. And the government has got to act. It could solve this now by taking firm action against P&O. And let's just remember that P&O is ultimately owned by a royal dictator in Dubai, whose company, DP World, has made nearly £3 billion worth of profits. They can afford to pay the union rate for the job, and they should.